Well, good day, everybody. It's Gordon Stone here. If for those of you who are watching this on your computer, you'll probably see my smiling face there. And today I'm joined by Kym Thomas, who is the CEO and owner of the Kahmoo Pastoral Company based in Cunnamulla. And Kym is what we call an alumni of our Agri-Business management program. And she's kindly agreed to share her story about working on the business while working in it, which is kind of the tension and the challenge that most of us are covering. So Kym, thank you very much for your time, because people really want to hear stories about real life experiences. And I know you took a big deep breath when I asked you whether you'd be prepared to do this. So thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Gordon. It's an honour to be asked. I don't feel I'm that good, really, but if I can help others and give them a sense of where we've been and where we're heading and help them on their way, that'd be great. Thank you, Gordon.
Yeah, thanks, Kym. Well, you know, pleasure's ours for having you join us. It's been a pleasure working with you over time. So let's just see where we get going. Just a quick couple of housekeeping things. This does form part of the Agribusiness Management Program that is jointly funded by the EMLA Donor Company, AgForce and the Department of Agriculture in Queensland, and also supported by ourselves, obviously, and Crowe Horwath, a mid-tier accounting firm. And so at the end of this session, there'll be a poll or some questions which will give us a bit of feedback on what people find interesting and less interesting about these webinars. So that's actually one of the reasons why we've invited Kym to come along, because people say, tell us some real life stories. So speaking about real life stories, what we've asked Kym to sort of cover off tonight, and what we've agreed is an interesting scenario, is we've got a particular mantra, which we'll come to in a couple of minutes. But basically, what we wanted to do is to say to Kym, look, you signed up when you joined our program to think about taking your business to a whole other level. And when I asked you about the mechanics of how you sort of think about that, there's kind of the bigger picture level of, I do need to work on the business. So the question is, why is that so? Then the question is, well, how do you go about it? And what do you need to do to make that all work? So Kym, I'm just thinking, would you mind giving us a quick snapshot about your business so people have some insight into who you are, what you're doing, what your aspirations are, maybe a bit about the others in the business, some of those sorts of things, just so we get a bit of a feel for where you're coming from and also, I guess, where you're going to as well.
Yes, Gordon. I think our business is we have an Australian white sheep stud as well as running a commercial fat lamb business, and it's a generational business. So my son Tony is now in partnership with me, but prior to that it was my parents and my husband Greg Dunstan. So when we got to ABDI, there was a lot going on and probably not enough structure, and there was a lot of stress, and I felt that it could be done a lot better, needed more systems in place to give me less stress, to give the team a better focus, and grow and develop a business forward. But in saying that, until we got to the ABDI program, we really hadn't worked on a vision, and I didn't realise how much vision was a big part. But it does, once you get that, it's very easy then to start working on the business and working out how you're going to do it and what you're going to do what you want to do. So yeah, it can then be much more orderly, and the tension then is less, and you can also have a better work-life balance. Even so, you know, like we're all, I think a lot of people are in drought at the moment, and it's keeping people awake at night, but knowing where you're going and why you're doing it really is a great help.
Okay, great. Thanks, Kym. And Kym, look, I've just got a quick question, which is, you've talked about roughly where you're going, and you've talked about Australian Whites as being like a specialty meat sheep brand or breed. So roughly where are you heading on this journey without necessarily giving away all the secrets?
So we decided that the fat lamb business was what our key business was, and the Australian white stud really fitted in integrally with it. To people that we sell the stud rams to, and also increasing our performance in our fat lamb business. That we wanted to head up to the high-end market, like a high premium retail market domestically, and maybe further internationally down the track. But we had to start somewhere, and this was a good starting point.
Okay, sounds good to me. So look, Kym, what we might do then is just get started on that agenda, which is, why are we working on the business? What do you need to do to actually work on the business, and how do you go about it? So if we move on to, I guess, that first point, which is why would you work on the business? And for those of you who are looking at your slides, I will cover off our mantra at the end of what Kym's got to say. So Kym, on this slide, you've talked about the vision, which you've already touched on. You've touched a little bit on this orderly growth process, and you've just said that there's kind of this tension or this balance between working on the business and working in the daily grind, and this kind of coming and going from the two of them. So could you just give your kind of thoughts on why you regard it as so important to be able to take the time out to work on the business, and maybe what it does for you personally, just in terms of kind of keeping you motivated or whatever it might be?
Yeah, working on the business, I couldn't say more so, is the most important part. I love being outside and I love working in the business, but I get very stressed when I don't know what's going on where the work on part happens. And so if you've got a good system and a good plan, you then mentally cope better with the ups and downs that do happen out in the paddock, because you've got something there to fall back on, or a solution or a way forward, or you've got people that you can rely on and depend on, and a great team backing you, that if something happens, you've got something to fall back on. And the work-life balance is something that really, to keep a good mental plan and a great attitude to life, you've got to be able to have that balance. And with that, when you're working totally outside in the business and sorting that out, you forget what's going on inside, and you get some shocks sometimes, and that's probably the most stressful part of it. So without those stresses, because you're working on the business while you're outside, really works for us.
Okay. And look, Kym, before we move on, I've got, I guess, an observation, because it's something, as I've got to know you and Tony, it seems to me that that both you and Tony in particular, because really you're the two important people and very much at the coalface, it seems to me that you've got a really common sort of game plan. And even though it chops and changes around a bit, it just seems to me that that's the thing that, we'd have a conversation with you both. I can actually see you both kind of thinking exactly, not exactly, but you're heading down the same pathway. And it's sort of like someone's driving the bus, but you're all on the same journey. Do you get a sense that things might be better now that you're much, much clearer on where things are heading?
Yes, I think that's communication, but it's also that vision. And it wasn't until Tony and I actually sat down and worked out that we actually had a congruent vision. But sitting down and finding the congruent vision also laid systems and processes together, and it was one day Tony turned around to me and said, "Mum, I didn't know you were on track with me." And so that vision was absolutely important. And then once you both are on the same page, then you trust each other with what you're doing, because you're doing it for the common good, and you have a greater understanding and probably talk better, knowing where each other's home, and it's clearer. It's clear in your mind, it's clear in their mind, and when it's clear in your minds, it helps the team, because they're suddenly clear of where you're going, and there's no, oh, maybe not, and so suddenly you've got a whole business that's working in one line, and that's really worked.
Okay. And look, just one other comment, and maybe I won't ask you to sort of cover this one off as well, but another thing that I've noticed is that even some of your family members I talk to too are quite aligned with where it's going. So even there's you and Tony, I notice others of them are sort of talking and kind of lining up to support this as well. Is that reasonable comment?
Yep. When it comes to a family business, which this one is, and a generational one, you like to think that you're doing something that's going to be there for everybody, but you also like to think that everyone agrees or can see where you're headed and is excited about it. And once we've got the vision there, everyone sort of came on board and supported and wanting to help and wanting to put parts forward. And who knows what all our kids are going to do. They go to school and they go to uni, and then after uni they have a time where they decide whether they're going to come back to your country life or they're going to go and do other things. And if they have an idea where mum and dad are going and their other siblings, they're more likely to have a clearer idea how and where they fit in earlier, which gives you a better idea on how your business is going to go and who could be part of it.
Okay, thanks, Kym. Well, look, we'll keep moving along. So I guess in summary around the why question, we talk in our program, and this is not a plug for the program or anything like that, but it's just trying to set this webinar up in another way. We've got this mantra, which is creating a high-performing, self-managing, saleable, investor-ready and profitable agribusiness. So the idea behind that is, try and get the most out of the business. And then you talk about work-life balance, Kym, which we'll cover off in a minute. Self-managing, which is systematic, which again, you'll cover off. Saleable and investor-ready. Well, if you're going to go through an expansion process, then money is always the name of the game. Depends on where the money is going to come from. Profitability, obviously. And then the whole idea of the agri-business is the business kind of concept. So, Kym, I'm going to go to the next set of couple of slides here and put you under pressure, because we often in these webinars, I will rattle off these 12 pillars of business best practice. And the first 6 are up there on the screen at the moment. And I don't expect you to sort of go through in detail and so on, but I'm just interested in your thoughts on from your own point of view, given that we've just been talking about why you're working on the business, and we're now going to get into some mechanics. What do those sort of concepts resonate with you now that you're kind of thinking about this high-performing business?
I think now the vision, number one, should always be the number one, and it got everything. It started the structure happening that we all need and crave, and businesses need it. So without that, you're a bit lost. Then the markets and products and customers are so important, because that's where money's going to come from, and you've got to be able to put yourself out there, understand your customer, understand your product, and where your product might fit in the marketplace. There's no good having something that no one wants, only you. You're not going to make money doing that. So you've got to think then, so the corporate thinking and acting, you've got to work as a body looking like a good business, and without good financials and good finances and someone helping you with it, if you're not that way inclined, you can't do anything. You've got to know where it's all coming from and where it's going to go and how it's all going to fit together like the puzzle. And then you get down to teams, and without teams, no one's anyone. We all need someone, and we need happy people to work with us. So we need to understand the team that we need. We need to understand what we're good at. We need to understand what others may not be good at, and their personalities and how they're going to fit in with us. And to get the right team helps everything come right back to the main business core. Systems is a big one for me, because I need plans, and once I feel I've got a plan and an action and where I'm going to head, whether it's diaries or whether it's notes or smart sheets or whatever, those systems help me, but help the whole team, help anyone else, like Tony. We can all come off each other and say, hey, we can do that, or I could do this, and we're just still focused. So you're working as a unit. That, you know, a business that's not working as a unit, it's a we business, and we all work together to get one common goal because we understand the vision. Works really well.
Good, thanks. So I'm going to ask you to do the same again and maybe whistle through these a bit. Just, you know, what these ones mean to you as well, Kym.
So in every business there's risk, and I suppose at the moment our biggest risk is drought. But understanding the business, understanding your markets, and understanding your operation is also another part of risk, workplace health and safety. Just to quickly off that one, contract management, you really need to understand legals of what's going on today. There has been a lot of problems in businesses going belly up because they didn't understand contracts that they were signing, and what could happen, and what wasn't written in the contract that should have been written in it. And legals really help there when you don't understand it. Succession and growth and transition is about having a business ready to get someone else on board, or whether it be family or whether it be sold to someone else. So if you've got a business that's ready that's set up for that, you can walk out and know everything else is going to go okay. Value adding and leverage is working on what you've got and trying to find the best money out of the probably 20% of your product, which leads to your sales and marketing. And there's so many ways to start in sales and in marketing. It's huge, and it's another area that possibly I need to learn a lot more about. But you need to learn how to again get people and understand it and get it on board. And then the last being communication, and that's often a top one for me, because I believe a lot of things come undone with poor communication or misunderstanding of emails and the words said, and teams can fall apart over bad communication. But business can fall over then through the team or through their lack of communication to their sales marketing. So yeah, all very important, Gordon.
Okay, thanks, Kym. Sorry to put you under all of that sort of pressure, but yeah, thank you for doing that. So I always feel it's just would be nice to have it into someone else's words rather than mine. So thanks for doing that. So we're just going to move on. So I'm just thinking, I'm going to ask you maybe to give us a bit more of a snapshot, if we haven't already sort of covered off some of these points about, you know, where the business is going. And I don't know, maybe we have covered most of them. So I'm happy if you just want to, you know, whatever you think's fair to comment on there, Kym.
The marketplace, I suppose, for us in our fat lambs, where we sort of knew it to a degree, but the more we've investigated, the more we've done, we've sort of worked out where we want to place ourselves in the marketplace. So I suppose that's something that's happened, and that helps then your growth. A huge thing that I think everybody's dealing with at the moment is drought, and we really saw that as number one when we came and saw you in the beginning, because we'd seen drought after drought and no recovery time, and things getting less and less. And I feel there's a lot in the same boat as us. It's trying to find out how you're going to get through it and maximise it, because none of us want to go backwards. We all want to go forward, and we all want to have a win at the end of the day. And while you're in a drought, you can often feel you're not going forward. But if you can feel that you've got something in your back pocket that's going to help you move forward, and at the end of the drought, you're going to get there, you'll have confidence in what you're doing, and you'll sleep a lot better at night. So for us, drought proofing was a huge thing. And that meant we had to go out and find other country, and we couldn't find agistment. We ended up having to buy it. We couldn't lease it. Everyone seemed to were in the same boat as us. So that was our thing, plus now feeding. But anyway, and the right team is, without you guys helping us through it and being able to depend on a great financial team and getting people on board to delegate things that we don't do particularly well, then also gives you better confidence and those around you on how you're going to go forward. The thing we often do less of, but we should do more of, is celebrate the successes. Yeah, you're always so busy in doing as well as working on that you forget to lift your head up and say, hey, we've achieved this, and isn't that great? We're in such a better place than we were last week or yesterday or a few hours ago or what it was. But it is certainly a fantastic thing that keeps positiveness, keeps hope, and keeps you keeps the stress out. You've got to be happy in business, and you've got to be happy doing what you want. And that, when you celebrate those successes, that really helps that process.
Well, thanks, Kym. So let's move on. So if we go back to what you've just covered off, which is why you're doing what you're doing. So you've got plans to head off into higher value marketplaces. You've had to take some big steps to drought-proof and, in fact, acquire another place. That means you've got to get the right people around you. It means that you've got to kind of line up and just go take a deep breath and say, righto, these are all the things we need to do. So what is your kind of motivation behind this? I mean, we've got those slides up there now, but could you maybe just put them in your own words about, you know, what you're actually doing to sort of make all of this come to pass, and then we'll move on to the how you do it.
For me, planning is my big thing. Planning and systems. If I'm stressed, it's usually that I haven't planned well enough, and I've not planned to delegate or whatever. So the more planning I've done, the more systems I've put in place, the more I feel as a team we work better, and our stress is a lot less in the whole team. And you can actually get a bit more balance about, instead of flying here, doing this, doing that. You can say, okay, I'm going to have an afternoon off now, or I'm going to have a day off today doing something that I want to do. It might be something that's in the business, but it's something that you really enjoy doing, and you can get that done. And I suppose people are a big part of it. Because I'm such a big team person, I can't do it on my own. I have to have a great team around me, and I do. Working out the right people that fit in our system and fit in what we need to do is a huge thing. Their personalities and how we're going to work together, and trying to keep that communication as open as possible and as clear. But at the end of the day, it's those systems and smart sheets or notes and plans, calendars that you write all the bits on, that we're going to do this on certain days, and you've at least got some sort of structure that gets everybody in the same boat working in for a common goal.
Okay, thanks, Kym. So let's just dig down into all of those a little bit more. So this is kind of the how I do it. So I'm hoping that that there might be something for people listening in who go, actually, look, there's a little tip here or piece of gold that I can apply myself. So, you know, you've actually said to me, and you've just said a minute ago, the more I plan what I do, the more comfortable I feel and the happier I feel that everything is sort of under control. So can you maybe just cover off some of these points here, because there's a few interesting ones in there already.
Yeah, it's the direction we're going. Where's our ship heading is huge, but that comes back to your vision, I suppose. And everyone needs to be on that one direction. And if you're all working together, it really makes a cohesiveness absolutely super well. You always need people, you know, financiers and family and people around you as sounding board. Criticism, good criticism is always good. It keeps you honest and not getting too much over yourself. And positive reinforcement is a great part too. But you learn more on mistakes, and you learn more from people that have the ability to come and say, hey, you could have done that better, or this is a way you could do it. And that's a team approach. That's, you know, the team needs to be able to feel that they can do that. In the whole scheme of things, our lives, we do things looking back often at what we did in the past, and was it good, was it bad, could we have improved on it, and then we look forward and we try and change it up, or do something similar, and try and get the structure right. And I you know, it's something that you're always looking to, not only just looking forward in your vision, but also just keeping an eye on what else could be around. But yeah, the planning lists and schedules and phone calls, and keeping the calendar and what I'm going to do today, and getting it off, means that when you're out in the paddock and you come back, or you're out doing something somewhere and you come back, your focus can come straight back into where you needed to be, and get the jobs done. So by the end of the day, you can finish up and say, I've achieved this, or I couldn't do that because I couldn't get onto the phone and I couldn't do it. So you've got a structure for the next day forward. You've got a structure for people that are working with you, that are, you know, we all work as equals pretty much, but we need everyone on the same page. We need all those things, but importantly as well is your advisory board, because they're the sounding, the direction. It keeps you on track on where you're going, and what you might have, what's gone not so well, and how we might be able to improve it. And then daily going in and talking with your team, and understanding where they're sitting and what their ideas are, and how they feel that you could make it better, because everybody can have a piece of the action, and everyone's got something to give. So without everybody that's on the team, no one's really can make it forward to a huge, in a fast way anyway.
Okay. Kym, look, I've got a question too, and it's about these kind of advisory boards, quarterly meetings, and all that sort of thing. Like, the more I sort of talk to people, a lot of people are, you know, quite organised in their weekly production meetings, and, you know, daily sort of use of whiteboards and all that sort of thing as a way of getting everyone on the same page. But and giving clear direction too, I'm thinking. But this kind of planning thing around the advisory boards and quarterly meetings, for some people, that they just think, oh, look, do I really need that sort of thing? And I suppose the question I've got for you is, how effectively does that work to help you? Like, I guess you need to get your advisors involved, you need to get your other family members involved and all that sort of thing. How does that help keep discipline, or how does that help keep communication, or how does that help keep the plan sort of happening from your point of view, your experience?
I find advisory boards and the quarterly meetings absolutely essential. It's for us, it keeps us definitely on track, but it gives me more confidence in what we're doing, coming from other perspectives, because you can have a lot of sleepless nights, but you haven't thought of everything. And when you bring it all together, there's a lot of stuff that you don't think about, and you wouldn't have thought about if you didn't have others coming in from different areas that you aren't good at, and giving their advice. And you can walk away feeling so much, oh, thank heavens for that, we're okay, we're going okay, all we got to do is this. And if you have to take all that on yourself, yeah, I can understand people going, not sleeping at all and feeling totally under the pump and not coping. So, and if you don't cope, you're not good in the team. So yeah, those advisory board meetings and quarterly meetings, essential.
Okay, so speaking of that sort of matter, the next one of your hows is the whole work-life balance. And you know, when we were planning this webinar, you said, look, that's a really critical thing for me. So I put that in there as being one of your, you know, your top 4 how to do it's. So I guess in your own words, I mean, you have sort of covered a number of these things off. So just in your own words, how does this all play out, looking after you, looking after the people around you?
I suppose I'm not a very good one at the work-life balance, I'd have to admit. I'd like to be a lot better than what I am, and I care for the people that I have around me, and I'd like to think I help them and look after them because they're important. I need to keep them going to help the team going. because they're very important to me. When it comes to looking after me, I find that a very hard thing to do, and I imagine a lot of people do. For me, sometimes it's getting out and smelling the roses, just walking around the garden and just going, hey, isn't life great? This is good. Sometimes it's something that I'm going to pay tennis for half an hour with so-and-so, and I'm going to make that and book that down, so I get to think out of the square. Because when we're always working in the business or on the business, we don't let our brains relax. And when our brains relax, we become so much more creative, and there's so much more power in our brains to move and progress our businesses forward, that we miss it. And you just, when you go and smell the roses, you're back there. Oh, wow, isn't this great? I do have a great life. This is why I'm doing it. I've got a great family. These are the values in my life I'm really, really going on. And we all have different values, but we've got to keep happy, and we've got to, the happiness comes out of doing the things that we love. And planning helps us get to the things we love. It might be that holiday we need. It might be, it might be some people might want to go shopping. It's different. Go and play footy. Whatever it is, we all need to do something for ourselves so that we can smell the roses and find getting out of bed a happy moment every day, and not a grudge. You're here to have happy times, and you're doing a business because that's why you wanted to do it, and you made the vision on doing it. So let that brain be creative and enjoy life.
Okay, thanks, Kym. So let's move on to the next one, and this is about the people side of things. And I know that, for some people I talk to, they do actually find it quite frustrating, sort of managing personnel and even the family interactions and all that sort of thing. And yet I know you've actually spent a lot of time and effort trying to work through the whole people side of things. So maybe just your thoughts on how you think around the personnel, including even family too.
Yeah, personality is a huge thing, and understanding people's personality and why they behave the way they do really helps you get on with people, helps the team go. It's so someone said, oh, I have to be a psychologist. Well, you do have to be a bit of a psychologist, because none of us are the same. We're all a bit different. We all have fantastic points, and we have other points that aren't as fantastic. But if we can pull out the best points in a person and work with them and understand the other ones, so that don't put them in a situation that's going to happen, and boundaries around those things, and motivating them to do what they want to do, because there's some things that they'll do so much better than you and enjoy doing it. And so it's a win-win. So you're winning on their strengths, and when their weaknesses don't become important anymore, you're still winning. So in that respect, you've got to come back to how you communicate with them and how you react. And a lot of us, when we're young, react very quickly, and we forget to stop and think and take a deep breath. Something I am working on as well. I'm not perfect, and I think if I can do that better, and we can all do that better in the team, we understand that we're all there for the common goal, and we're all there trying to have a win. No one's actually doing anything to make life bad. So yeah, just communicate and understand, and then we can get them on track and keep our business going, really, hopefully to the growing and growing in an orderly, good way. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. So let's move on to the final bit. So I guess you've already talked several times about lists and all that sort of thing. And I mean, most of us have got a notebook in our pocket and all that sort of thing, where we make a few, notes from time to time. But then there's all the other bits and pieces. And you've mentioned this kind of smart sheets, which is this online sort of project management process almost, which is trying to keep track of things. So how do you sort of how does the systematic side of it play out? Is there anything else we need to cover off there that would be helpful for people that you think work best for you?
I've noticed if I have a like your smart sheet, and everyone that's involved in the smart sheet knows on that smart sheet what their job is and when the time frame might be and whatnot. It keeps everything flying quite well, and they sort of go, oh yes, well I've got till here to do that. Oh, it's due tomorrow. Oh, so there's a structure around how they do it and what they do, and what the events in the day, how they happen as well. You could, if you didn't have smart sheets, just when you have your meetings, your production meetings, and everyone's got a notebook, and you can say this and that and this and that's happening. So how about, could you do that, or can, you know, and people put forward what they can and what they can't. You've all got it down, you've all written it down in some format that we're all on the same page, and then the next meeting you can come back with what you've achieved and what still has out there, but you've got this flow happening, and you pick up places where you may not have picked up before, things that you haven't done. So it makes sure things are sort of on track and keeps it on track in a business going forward.
Okay, thanks.
So
Kym,
yeah,
sorry, go on.
No, yeah, I think I covered that. Yeah.
Okay. Look, there is a point down the bottom which I picked up. And by the way, look, we're probably running slightly behind time, but if anyone's got any particular questions that they want to pose to Kym before we knock off in a few minutes, there is a question box there if you're on your computers, and I'll get Dave to keep a bit of an eye out and see if there's any questions that people want to pose to Kym. So just a quick reminder to do that. But Kym, that bottom point about sometimes I have to lean on others, it really quite interested me when you said that. So could you just elaborate on that for a minute?
Yeah, I think sometimes when we lean on others, we feel vulnerable. We feel that we're not good enough, or they're too busy. But at the end of the day, I find when I lean on someone else, I'm giving them, you're really good at what you're doing, and it helps me so much because I can get on with the other jobs that I can do better, and the job that I'm leaning them to do, they do so much better at. And the stress relief for me, and the fact that I've got someone else on my team that's prepared to do it, is just brilliant. But it is something that you've got to get used to doing. It's not something that came naturally to me. You get so busy sometimes, and then it happens, and then you go, oh, that wasn't so hard and wow, haven't they done a fantastic job? So I would suggest to those that feel they can do everything, let others have a go, because they can do it really well too. You don't realise how well sometimes.
No, sometimes you just got to give them a chance. And I mean, I even know that in our business too, that that sometimes you've just got to go, look, I do have to get other people to do things, and they'll bring a different perspective, which is a bit challenging. And then you think, well, maybe I'm just going to have to trust. So yeah, good point. So Dave, before we go on to this last slide or so of wrapping things up, I wondered whether there was a question or a comment that had come in that you can sort of moderate for us.
Nothing at this stage. I think some people might be trying to ask questions by putting their hand up, but if you do have a question, please just type it into the box in the question box on your screen, and yeah, we'll read that out when it comes through. Thank you.
Okay, so thanks all. If you can, just do as Dave said, that'd be great. So Kym, I'm thinking we'll move on to this summary slide while people are posing their questions in there. So I guess the summary bit is, well, I guess if we say the intent was to create this high-performing business, the intent was you had a 10 to 15-year plan, and the intent was to have an achievable work-life balance. What are some of the key points to kind of summarise this discussion from your point of view so far?
I think, well, I have to go back to the program again, and it created such a great system for us to follow and get everything on track and understand all of the things that we should be looking at, and not be so intent on being in the business, but also on the business. That with structure and planning and people and communication and understanding of risks and a corporate identity and advisors, we really came out feeling so much stronger, and we've been able to get more more roots into where we want to go and grow in a better way, better structure. So yeah, it's the whole the planning and at the end of the day, we're here to have fun, and we can see the light at the end of the tunnel, which is a great thing, and we've got a business that we're really excited about keeping on and moving up.
Well, Kym, Dave, just as you're sort of looking to see how the question sides is going, and I'll ask you to sort of observe what questions there have been in a sec. Kym, interesting that you talked about the having fun thing, because Damien Street, one of our presenters in this program, this is the thing that always sticks in my mind, and even though I hear it once and I hear it several times, as he says to me, look, fundamentally, Gordon, we're just in business to have fun and make a profit. And when he breaks it down into like simple terms like that, I go, look, there's a little piece of gold. So when you said the have fun bit, I just thought, well, look, that's actually an important thing for us all to realise all the time, that it's about the money, but it's also about the fun, and I guess, like you said, work-life balance. So yeah. So Dave, how are we going with the questions, and then maybe we'll hand it back to Kym to do a final sort of wrap up in a tick.
Yeah, so there is a question that has come through. It says, do you have any suggestions for communication? We have 2 farms, we live on one, and the other is 4 hours away. I struggle to find an effective way to communicate daily so that everyone, which includes 2 team members at the other farm, as well as my husband and myself on the farm we live on, are all on the same page each day and know what is happening.
Well, Kym, over to you. Got any thoughts on that one?
Oh, it's very close to my heart, to be honest. The only way I find communication by the telephone is, in a lot of cases, what it has to come back down to. The smart sheet's a fantastic way to for everyone, if they've got internet and can get online, they can know where generally you're heading. But if it's something that's had to change, it's usually something you've got to communicate on a telephone. Otherwise, you've got the other systems such as the smart sheet or a calendar. Sometimes you share things on a calendar, and so everyone has the same calendar and everyone can work through on that communication level. It's it's knowing what structures you have and to be able to use them.
Thanks, Kym. And look, I'll make a couple of comments about that as well, because this smart sheet system that we talk about is something that we use internally in our business, and some of our clients work with as well. And it's it's an item that can be acquired, and then it just needs to be customized. And so, for example, if people are internet savvy and they're prepared to use their computer or their phone and that sort of thing, it does actually help keep track of things. And even myself, I know I'm not as efficient at using it as I could be, but it's kind of finding something like that that works for everybody in the team. And so I guess when we implemented the smart sheet system, Kym, that was another possibility to help people do things better and more easily. And do you think that's made a difference, that sort of thing?
Yeah, I found Smartsheet was good because we're all on the same page. There's always things that change on a day-to-day basis, hour to hour, that you have to communicate on the phone. But generally, if you've got a direction and it's on the Smartsheet, everyone knows where you have to go and can sometimes make decisions without having to ring you too. So it works out.
Okay. Thanks, Dave. Anything else that we need to attend to? Because I'm conscious we're 3/4 of an hour into all of this. So.
My only comment would just be around, I mean, I know we've been talking about Smartsheet, but there are a number of essentially they're a collaboration tool. And there are a number of different ones that are out there. As I think Kym alluded to, you do need internet to use something like Smartsheets. Effectively, all it is it's basically a giant to-do list for everyone in different locations, and people can update it as they complete things, and that it's effectively live. So different people see whether something's been done, regardless of whether they're in the same location. So that's just an example of something where you do have multiple people in multiple locations. A really simple option is just potentially having an Excel spreadsheet with a to-do list on it, and that's just kept in some sort of shared folder, such as Dropbox is another tool, where you can still update things and it will transfer and change in a live fashion. So that's a really good way of communicating in when there's different people in different locations. So that'd be my little 2 cents.
Yeah. And equally, because we have discussed this as well, something like Dropbox, which is another system that's purchasable off the shelf. The beauty of that is somewhat different to Smartsheet, which means you still can use it even if you're not on the internet. And then when you come in back, say, into the house or back onto online somewhere, it'll just automatically update. So, a number of people I've spoken to do quite like Dropbox for that reason. So, yeah. So, Dave, I'm thinking if there's no more questions, looking at time, we might just draw this to a close. Anything else from your point of view before I hand back to Kym and we'll close up?
No, that's fine. And just if people do have questions, I'm sure Gordon will cover it, but please feel free to email us. And, just these types of questions about systems that can be implemented in the business, happy to discuss those things with people, particularly if they want links to certain systems that we use and all that sort of stuff.
Okay. So, Kym, we'll wrap it up now. Do you have any sort of final words that you've kind of been thinking about as we've been having this little conversation?
Oh, no, not really. It's all about being in business, as Damien said, and having fun. We all like to have a little win every now and again, and it really is part of our value system. We've got to make sure everything we do is in our value system, and to keep the right mindset when things are going tough. You've got to keep that mindset right. So if we can have all the systems and all the things we've spoken about tonight, it certainly helps with your values and understand them and keeps that mindset in a positive light when sometimes things aren't so positive around you.
And I think part of that, and even just listening to you, is staying on track helps the mindset or helps you feel better that everything is going according to plan. And so if things do go a bit pear-shaped, you can sort of get back on track with ease. So
that's right. Yeah. Very much, yeah.
Okay, well, look, I've just seen the question bar bob up again, but I'm thinking maybe we can just deal with that one out of session because we're now kind of 50 minutes into this. So I'm just going to move on to the last couple of slides. Just a reminder that why we're doing all of this is this webinar is just part of the information flow that we're committed to with the industry. The second thing is we run these short, sharp 12-week programs, which are really just to give people some insights into the business fundamentals that we've been covering off tonight. And Kym has been referring to this 12-month agribusiness management program that we run as well. And the distinction there is its purpose is to give people some insights into how some of the higher order business best practice things actually work if you're looking to grow and expand your business. And part of it is, as Kym would attest to, there are a range of presenters, myself and others, who deal with a whole raft of these business best practice concepts. But the beauty of it is they're sitting in a room of like-minded people and talking to someone like Kym and Tony and just bouncing ideas off them. And then subsequently the mentoring process, which means, between sessions, there's a discussion about things that we cover. And we're also involved in the Queensland Agricultural Training College's Farm Business Management skill set, which is all around business planning. So that's all part of the package as well. And as Dave mentioned, if you would like any information about these programs or get in contact with us, there are the contact details. And as we draw all this to a close, we'd just like to thank you all for attending tonight. And Kym, in particular, thank you for your time. It's a big thing to ask you to kind of share your experiences. So thank you very much for tonight.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you. Thank you for your help.
Thank you, and thank you all for your attendance. And as you close down this webinar, you hopefully will get a quick little survey thing to fill in that will just help us fine tune what we do. Thank you all for attending tonight. Good evening.
Good night.